know if he had anything to do with it or not. Different person made that one. Try to get the dates on these things. and 1952. Looks like it might have roofing. The thing is who you are.
I'm Catherine Ernest.
And how old are you, Catherine?
I'm 84.
And you had a sister, Marie, and she was married to, and they had
one son.
And his name is
William. George William. G. William.
G. William. And they had a son, Craig. Greg. Why I say Craig,
Greg William.
Greg William. And they live in Walkersville, Maryland now.
Right.
Is that correct?
That's right.
And his wife is Marcia.
Marcia.
Merkel. Well, they were originally from where?
Massachusetts. Gardner, Massachusetts. They were from Gardner, Massachusetts.
There you go. Well, they can't be all bad, right? Must be a lot of good there. Well, that's interesting. I'd heard of Gardner, Massachusetts, and they say there's gardeners all over the place up there.
Must be.
Your mother and father were?
Eleanor Ernest and William Ernest.
And Eleanor was born in, what, the late 1800s?
She was 87 when she, or about 87 when she died, and she died in 67. Yeah, late 1800s. I didn't.
Well, I just.
Her birth date was September the 19th, but I don't know what year she was born.
And she was, what was her last name, maiden name?
McCoy.
And her father and mother, do you?
George and Margaret McCoy.
George and Margaret Meckley. And her mother was a what? Do you know what her...
Her mother was a gardener.
And...
She was a sister to George Gardner, her mother. To your grandfather.
And who was in their family? In the George and Clara, brother and sister? And they had other brothers and sisters.
Uncle Phil was the oldest. And I don't know if Aunt Mame or I think Aunt Mame was next.
Aunt Mame.
Aunt Mary. Her name was Mary, but we always called her Aunt Mame.
And who was she married to?
She wasn't married.
She didn't get married. No. She was Aunt Mame Gardner.
Aunt Mame Meckley.
Aunt Mame Meckley. Who else was in the family? Now this is the Meckley family.
Yeah. Well, Aunt Julia was next, and Uncle John, I guess, was next, and he was married to Marion Lessig.
Lessig.
And mother was next. She was married to William Ernest. And Aunt Kate was next. She wasn't married. And Uncle Dan was next. And he was never married. And that was all of them.
Now that's on your mother's side. That's Lenora.
Eleanor.
we called knew as Nora, right?
Yeah, we always called her, everybody called her Nora.
And you called her Mom.
Yeah.
Now, your dad was...
Well, he was 5 years older than Mother. And he had a brother, George. Yeah, I know what her name, his wife's name was. And Aunt Rose, Allison. I don't know exactly how they come. Aunt Ellie, Deal, her name was. Oh, there was Aunt Melinda. She lived in Pittsburgh. She didn't have any children, but she was married to a man by the name of White, but I don't know what his first name was.
Where was your dad born? He lived close by here.
Bedford Township.
Bedford Township? Out near where, out towards Smith's Crossings? How would you...
You know where there was double bridges that crossed the creek down out there around the Cleveland?
Yeah.
Oh, instead of making the turn at the Cleveland, you went straight over and crossed those bridges. And I was down that road is where his grandmother lived after, when I got big enough to know where they lived. They lived in about 2 or 3 miles down that road. But I think they lived at one time on the farm where Aunt Rose lived, and I can't tell you exactly where that was. It was going out the road and then it turned off again. That place isn't there anymore. I mean, the house isn't there anymore.
Well, you remember my dad, Charlie.
Yep.
What do you, anything particular you remember about him? He was...
he was just a good all-around guy. Always in a good humor. He used to stop and visit with us and tell stories.
Well, you said something about him driving the bread wagon, which I had forgotten about. He
drove Scheck's bread wagon.
Scheck's bread wagon. Did you know my mother or remember when you first saw her? Do you know anything in particular about her?
I didn't know her until they were married. But I've known her ever since they got married. And I can remember when they brought you here, you were just a little baby.
That was a few years ago.
Yeah.
Well, your mother and dad were my godparents.
Yeah.
And I guess that's what made them always sort of special to me. You knew my grandfather, George,
yeah,
and their family.
Yeah.
There were, in his family, who were in his family, the names of Uncle Fred?
Uncle George and Uncle Fred and Grandmother Mackley, Aunt Liz Harnisfager.
Aunt Liz.
Harnisfager.
Do you know how you...
No, I don't know how you spell it.
Is that H?
H, huh? I always thought that was just an odd name. And Aunt Ann Wise. And Aunt Laura Fletcher. And then there were 2 that lived down around. Aunt Jewel was one, and Aunt Cecilia was the other one, but they lived lived around Philadelphia, and I don't remember what he did there. Jacoby, I think, was Aunt Jules' last name. That's what Aunt Jules' last name was.
And that was my grandfather's sisters. And he just had the one brother, is that correct?
Right. That's all I ever knew of anyway.
Well, there was a Clyde Gardner, not Fred's son, but another Clyde Gardner.
I didn't know.
Are you familiar with him? How about my grandmother Stiles, Mary Stiles?
And didn't Clara,
Aunt Clara is all I can remember. I know from Indiana, is that right?
well, she used to have a hat store down here on Juliana Street, right around the corner from.
Oh, by the Lutheran Church.
Or was it? It was closer to the corner. It was this other corner.
Oh.
See, on the corner there was a men's clothing store. I don't know if her hat store was on the next building or not, but it's right along in there. What was her name?
Was she married?
Yeah.
Did is that where Clara May stayed when she first came to Bedford?
I think so, but I never knew Clara May. I mean, I heard the name, but I never knew the person.
Well, did Aunt Clara's, that was Grandmom's sister,
Yeah.
and
It's 5:05 p.m.
a lot of her family is probably now part of them is in Indiana, Pennsylvania.
They were the only two that I knew from her family.
Yeah.
Clara and Aunt Mary.
Well, Aunt Clara was an unusual personality, I think, from what I understand. I understand that Clara May, and she was identified, I think, as Clara May Stiles. I'm not sure whether I'm accurate on that or not. She stayed with Ida and Russ Gardner for a few years, went to nursing school, and then moved to California and married Art Coleman. And she's still out there.
I remember the name, but I don't remember the person.
Yeah.
See, I was away from here at that time, and
There's a big gap. Now, your sister, Marie, how old was she when she passed away?
83,
83, and that was in 1989?
3 years ago, yeah.
Bedford's changed a lot since you were a youngster.
Right.
It's came out of the dirt, hasn't it?
It was a dirt road out there when I was a kid. During the First World War, the army trucks would go down here in a string in the morning. I don't know where they stayed all night. So I was on the road all night. Mothers go out to hang up the flag, and they'd wave and blow their horns when they go by. Almost every morning there'd be a bunch of army trucks. Then they finally paved the road. That used to be a farm across the road there. Pastor Cosner.
I guess this house was pretty much in the country when you were young, was it?
There wasn't. This side of the road was pretty well built up, but the other side there was a house, but just straight across from this one above here, and then the rest of that was empty. So we got down was one on the other side of the underpass. And then there wasn't any till you got down to the one that John Wills lived in. There were 3 there. And then the road out to the cemetery was along there. And then there was a great big one. It seems to me all of them, Charlie lived in there for a while, in that big one. It seems like Belleville was going to school in here. She stayed with Charlie and all down there.
And was that on Bedford Street?
No, it was on 5th Street.
Yeah. Not the Saucer House.
No, it was on the other side of the street. It's just on the other side of the road that goes out to the cemetery.
Oh, what we call the Poorhouse Road.
Yeah.
Oh no, would that be the Poorhouse Road?
Yeah.
It's the Cumberland Road right now.
Well, at that time I called it Poorhouse Road.
Well, that would have been, what, before I was born? Or after?
Well, it must have been after you were born. I can't remember you. I can remember being in there one Saturday night and Belleville was ours. Now, isn't that strange that I can remember that?
Uh-huh. Well, you and Belva, you're just a little bit older than she is, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
And Belva did. I know that she may have stayed at our house a couple of times then, because I know she stayed with us for a while on Bedford Street. I remember her staying there.
I don't remember around there.
But she was teaching school, and one of the things I remember is she bought a Model A Ford, and it had a rumble seat. The rumble seat's what I remember and why I remember that, I guess.
They were quite different at that time.
Well, you worked for many, many years in Harrisburg, retired.
I was 45 years in that. 44 years and 7 months.
Oh, boy, you got it right down to the month. Gee.
Well, the reason I have it down to the month is, I think he gave us a raise once. They just give you one every now and then.
Every 25 years.
They gave us a raise, and they figured they had given me a certificate for 45 years of service because it was over 44 years and 6 months. And after they'd given us a raise, I got a letter, and they said that they had figured it on the 45 years, the full 45 years. So I wasn't entitled to quite as much. So they were going to take $1 off my check for the next 24 months, I think. I thought that was the dumbest thing I ever heard.
Always have an angle, don't you?
For 24 months, and then they would give me the extra $1 to make up for that mistake that they had made.
Mm-hmm.
And by golly, I wondered when the 24 months was up whether they would remember it. They did. They gave me the extra $1. 24 months.
I think you told me earlier you worked for the Transportation Department, later changed to the Department of Revenue.
Yeah. And I worked for Corporation Tech, but that was in Revenue Department. And then I worked for PennDOT, which was all really the same thing. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of difference in the work, but when I started, there wasn't a Department of Revenue, and there wasn't a PennDOT.
You've seen a lot of changes. I guess one of the changes that probably was very descriptive or consistent to you was your means of transportation between Harrisburg and Bedford.
It sure was. Castle all the time.
You started out by train originally, is that right?
Yeah, I went by train.
And that was a roundabout route.
It was.
And then eventually
A Greyhound.
the Greyhound bus, except for on Thanksgiving Day when they were always on strike. You first went down to Harrisburg, you and your friend, Miss Kaiser, Mary,
Mary Kaiser.
and you had a very small room. You became close friends in for a year.
Oh, we were friends for years.
No, I'm just kidding. The
Yeah.
size of the room
Yeah.
indicated you almost had to crawl over each other's bed to
Get in.
get in. And then things got better from that on. Well, I really appreciate you talking to me, and I'm sure that I'll be able to keep some of these things in the kind of order that I can relate it to my children and my brothers and sisters, who are even more confused than I am at times about some of these relationships. I guess mainly because they're a little bit younger than I am.
Yeah, we had a great day in golfing. Look at all the balls we found. That means you were looking. Yeah, that's right.
Kenny, none of them were his. I guarantee you that. These don't grow in fairways. I know
Well, we
that.
couldn't find them with somebody else. Bill, should you shaggy there, Bill? Bill, these are off the driving.
I think you've been in the water.
Bill, you don't play off on these shaggy. You don't play off to this.
Brand new with the polishing.
You don't play off there. Bill, I'm standing, you know?
Okay, you got it right here on.
Yeah,
right here on the schedule.
No, I haven't. Did you say?
Come on, James, take to the ball.
7 o'clock.
Come on, get up there, Gary. Get up there, Gary. Not offside. Come on. That's it. This is sort of neat. This is the third.
Those are big